the Assemblyman who is running for Congress, Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi. I almost had a Freudian slip
there,
right
Bill.
there. Yeah. Listen, I just want to say this after the calls that Anthony Piceni took. I do not. It's been no secret, and I haven't. I feel I would be a real loser if I would all of a sudden come in and say, "Oh yeah, I supported the president." I'm pretty firm on it. I did not vote for President Trump. And, however, if you feel you can justify that the president isn't helping us or telling people to leave upstate New York because certain people didn't vote for him, I would hope that every president who's been elected to the United States is going to help out those Americans who voted for him and did not vote for him. Because they're there. Once you become president, you represent all of us. And to say that Tony Piceni is getting just what he asked for because he didn't show up at the airport, imagine if we're talking about Obama. Would you be saying the same thing? You'd hate Obama if he was punishing upstate New York. Why is it the shoe's on the other foot now and it's okay? Absolutely not. I would hope the president is not punishing us. Anthony, do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. Look, why would he punish an area that went overwhelmingly in support for him?
Right.
You know, my assembly district alone went by double digits for Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he's a New Yorker. You know, instead of telling people, pack your bags and move from upper New York to Wisconsin, why not say, hey, I'm a New Yorker. I came to Rome. I promise to create jobs in New York and be the New York president and deliver results for my home state. And this is exactly the opposite of what was promised. So, you know, I would hope that the president, I was very excited after the election thinking that we have a New York president. Decades since we had a president from New York State. And finally, maybe New York is going to get its due nationally. You know, we send a lot of tax dollars down to Washington. We don't necessarily get as much back in return, and finally we're going to have a president from New York who's going to support New Yorkers and hopefully bring some good jobs back to New York. And this is kind of a slap in the face.
The county executive criticized the governor as well for not coming out and personally going after the president after that statement. What's your thought on that?
Well, it's been 2 years since the governor has come to this area for anything of substance. He was here in the winter after the storm. Mm-hmm. He didn't come here after the significant flooding we have had in the last 3 weeks. And it's shameful, honestly. And this is a governor of my own party, and I'm ashamed because this is someone who should be here now, not only addressing the economic development issues that are happening in the area, but also addressing the homeowners who have been flooded now for the fourth time in 6 years, and providing some relief for them, both relief short-term to help them with their out-of-pocket costs and long-term relief to help fix some of the flooding problems that are happening in places like Whitesboro or Herkimer that just keep happening every few years. And he's not here, and that's wrong. This is an area that's being ignored. We're being ignored by our president now. Now we're being ignored by our governor. There are different parties, but at least they have one thing in common.
I do want to ask you, your opponent, your opponent, Claudia Tenney, did make a statement after this broke yesterday. And remember, this all came out of an interview with the New York Times, where the president said, "Don't worry about leaving your homes behind. Get out. Go to a place where you can actually get a job." Is in a sense what he was saying. And Congressman Tenney said, "I would hope this was something that was taken out of context," but then said, I'm going to invite him back up here. It seemed like a positive statement coming from her. What's your take on her statement?
Well, I'm sure she doesn't want to criticize the president too heavily. For me personally, I think it's pretty hard to tell folks to just leave their homes, leave their families, leave their jobs for some state that they've never lived in or have no connection to. The right thing for the president to be doing is fighting for New Yorkers, fighting for jobs in New York State, his home state, and coming here to tour the area to try and address some of the economic development needs that are there. You know, there's people like myself and others who have stepped up. We're in public service because we believe in this area. We're fighting every day to try and bring more jobs, keep jobs in the area, do the right thing. And it's hard when you have a president who's speaking ill of the area that you represent. not only does it send a psychological blow to the area, it sends a message to other people around the country and around the world, businesses, that don't move to New York State, don't move to upstate New York, because I'm telling people to leave there.
I want to bring Brian wants to make a quick comment, 315-736-0186. And, Brian, you're on with the Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. I just wanted to say, Donald Trump, we know what he's all about, President Trump. He's about watching things like that. If the executive didn't support him, I'm sure he remembers things like that. And also the fact that this is a blue state. Where they are now is all red. So he knows that as well, even though he's a resident of New York. It's New York. It's New York City. It's not upstate New York. It's a blue state. The governor plans on running. Do you think he's really going to do much for this state to make the state look better for the next election? He has no interest in helping us here. But, you can't really blame the guy. It's politics. I mean, even the executive went to support Cuomo. This is a blue state, folks. If you don't like it here, you've got to go where the red is. It's all red out in the Midwest. It's flyover country.
All right.
And that's what he's trying to support.
Okay.
Downstate, he didn't win this state.
And Brian, you think that's justified, though? You're okay with that?
I don't agree with it. But you know what? That's life.
It's a fact of life.
It didn't happen this time.
Yeah.
What happens when the Democrats in office and the same thing happens?
Okay.
Or downstate gets the job, or Albany gets the work.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the game. I hate to say it. I don't agree with any of it, but the fact remains that New York is a blue state.
All
and
right.
Nothing's going to happen here with a Republican, I doubt, to make Cuomo look better. The only thing to do is, like he says, he probably says, go where the red is.
Okay. I want the Assemblyman to comment on that. Brian, thanks for the call. I'll let you go and listen to his answer. Anthony?
Yeah. Hey there, Bill?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm sorry. I appreciate Brian's comments. Here's the one thing I would say. I think the governor, to ignore this area, this is what I said when he was not coming here for the State of the State, or when he was not coming here after the AMS announcement, for him to ignore this part of the state, in my opinion, is a mistake. We may not have the same clout as Long Island or New York City, but the mistake that Hillary Clinton made in the election was ignoring places that many people refer to as flyover country.
Right.
Places like Ohio or Pennsylvania or the Rust Belt or the rural areas. And many of those areas across the country look like this area here. And it's wrong, and I think it was a mistake on the Democratic Party's part to ignore places like this, because we'll be doomed down the road. And I've always made the argument that if the governor really wants to run for president someday, then what better launching pad than to say, I fixed the Mohawk Valley. I've turned the economy around of the southern tier. I've turned the economy around of the North Country. These are places that look like Ohio and Iowa and Wisconsin and Michigan and other areas that are battleground states. And to say you fixed it here, I think, is a good message to take nationally. But when you ignore your own Rust Belt areas and your own rural areas, you're going to be doomed when you try and run nationally. Yeah. And I think that's a mistake he's making, our governor's making.
Boy, in politics today, it would be nice if there was a candidate out there that said, we are all Americans at the end of the day.
Exactly. It shouldn't matter. Right, it really should not matter where you came from. I watched the county executive yesterday on the news. He made a good point. He said he's the executive for the entire county. He doesn't look at what towns voted for him or what city voted for him. And the same thing with me. I'm an assemblyman. I represent 130,000 people in this area, and I don't look and see whether they're a Democrat or Republican when they call my office to ask for help. That doesn't matter to me. I don't care. There's a time for politics, but when you're in office, it's time for governing and being a big boy and getting things done.
One more. David wants to make a comment, and then we'll get a break here. Dave, you're on with Assemblyman Anthony Brindisi.
Yes, I just have a quick question for you.
Okay.
There's a lot of outrage seemed to be coming from Mr. Presenti and some of the other politicians against Trump for what he said about people leaving New York. I'm where was the outrage a year or so ago against Mr. Cuomo when he came out with the statement that all of the upstate conservative gun-loving people should leave New York? I didn't see any outrage there.
All right. I'm going to hang up on you, David, and let him wrap it up here. Anthony?
I think you're right. You're right, David. Those kind of comments, in my opinion, had no place but the governor. I'd have said that.
Yeah.
We are a very diverse state. There are gun owners in this state. There are people who have conservative values in this state who align differently than the governor. And I think it was wrong for him to say that people who are of a different political persuasion than he is should leave the state.
Yeah.
If I didn't speak loud enough back then about that, I apologize. But I'm telling you right now, I think everyone has a place in this state, whether you're a conservative or a liberal or a progressive or Democrat or Republican.
I'm going to let you
for everybody.
Leave it at that. Anthony Brindisi, thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, guys.
We are out of time.